you doing? Welcome to American Defender. So today what I wanted to go over with y'all is this. This is the Llama Super Comanche 44 with an 8.5-inch barrel that we have affectionately named Big Momma Llama. It is a 44 Magnum 6-shot revolver. Of course, you know, it's a modern revolver, so it is going to be double action, single action. It's a dust magnet too, because it's got such a pretty shiny finish. So let's talk about this thing. There's not very many videos, and I didn't see any real in-depth videos on this classic, iconic revolver. All right, where it came from, what it is, the inspiration behind it, how long it was sold. Nobody even got into any kind of stuff about common issues with them or anything like that. So sit back and relax, and I'm going to go over all of that. Okay, this one, by the way, is in need of repair. I have the parts coming, and that is, I guess, one thing I should talk about with this right up front is if you find one of these, they're excellent guns, but if you find one of these, parts are really hard to find. Okay, there are some parts that Numeric and Jax has, of course Numeric and Jax, okay, two different companies, but all in all, these are really a fantastic revolver, and yes, they're on par with the Smith & Wesson that they're trying to copy here, and that is the Smith & Wesson Model 29-2. So these particular revolvers are made in Spain, and the actual company that makes them, the parent company of Llama, we call them Llama here in the United States, but it's pronounced Llama. 2 L's in Spanish is a Y sound. How do I know that? I live in Arizona. Say no more. Okay, so the actual name of the company, I'm trying to get this first word here, is Gabilondo Ecija Vitoria, right? And then after that has a little España after it. So what that is, what that says is made in Spain. The rest of it I have no idea. Gabilondo, it's Gabilondo and Cia Vitoria. So the just a Y is an eh sound. So you would get Gabilondo Cia Vitoria. So Gabilondo would be somebody's name. Would be, or the letter Y would be and then you've got Cia, which is also someone's name. Vitoria is also someone's last name. So that is who actually makes it. Gabilondo Ecija Vitoria. All right. It was imported by Stoeger. Right. Stoeger imported these. They have some very beautiful markings on them. They were made from 1978 to 1994. All right. So pretty large span. 16 years or so of manufacture with these things. Of course, all steel construction. Nothing cast here. Right? This is not cast. It's all steel. As a matter of fact, it's the same composition of high tensile strength steel that they make the Smith & Wesson 29 out of. It's the exact same stuff. Okay. What else could I tell you about it? Of course, it's a 6-shot. Let's go over some of the other features here. All right, so this basically is they're trying to copy the Smith & Wesson 29 here, which came to fruition, I think, in 1956. Okay, so anyway, of course, so they don't get popped by Smith & Wesson, they did some changes on it. So you notice here, like the Smith & Wesson, the old Smith & Wesson 29, we have the short little underlug on the barrel here. We have that same type of front sight on there, but if you notice, it's got a vent rib going across the top. All right, the Smith & Wesson did not have that. That is more reminiscent of the modern day Colt Anaconda. All right. We come down here. We do have our crane screw, which is mounted forward up here instead of being back here. All right, so they mounted it forward. On this particular model, the crane actually forms 2 points of lockup or security for this cylinder. All right, so there's supposed to be 4 points of lockup on this. As we move to this area right here above the crane screw, you will have your serial number, and then you'll also have a couple of symbols. One looks like a bomb, and then below that will be a little number, like this one says B2. Yeah, my lighting ain't too good. I'm sorry about that. I've dealt with that for years, but it says B2. And that B2 right there signifies the year that this was made. So in 1981, it would have started with A2, and then B2, and then so on and so forth. If it had said something like Z1, I think it is, Z1 would be 1980. And then, you know, going backwards from there. All right, and it starts in 1957, and I believe the letter C is omitted out of all of that. All right, so we also have our importer mark right here. You can see right there where it says Stoeger. We have our little llama medallion in the back right there. Really a nice looking frame, very reminiscent of the Smith & Wesson 29. If you weren't very sure about the Smith & Wesson 29, you would almost swear this is one. Of course, we got these really nice wood grips that wrap around the front, but not on the back strap here. Really nice wood grips. They feel really good in the hand. If we come around to the other side here, you can see we have our push forward style release. It allows our cylinder to pop out. All right, and this comes up and in. If you'll notice here, our ejection rod does not attach to the frame at all. It free floats. Okay, that's a little different. Also on the top of our crane here, we have a latch as well that kind of helps close this all up. As we move forward here, again, we've got more of the barrel. We've got our rear target style sight on the back. Let's look at the trigger here. We got a small trigger guard, as usual. We have more of that Colt influence with the actual trigger spur right here. With it being smooth, as opposed to having a texture on the front of it like the Smith would have. And it's also fairly wide and thick, all right? And it's kind of short at the same time. Very comfortable. It's a very comfortable trigger spur. The trigger guard, of course, is a little small. We go to our hammer. We have that wide spur hammer like you would have on the 29. And also with the hammer actually has 2 functions. All right, it's pretty interesting how the safety setup is on this. Most revolvers employ a transfer bar. All right, so when you would pull this back, a little bar would come up in front of the firing pin, and then the hammer would strike that bar, and then the bar would slip down, and that's what makes them drop safe. But if you look here, you can see we have a frame mounted firing pin like most modern revolvers, but there's no transfer bar. Okay, what this does is that the hammer serves as a hammer, but it's also the transfer bar. Okay, so when we go to fire this, boom, it'll hit the firing pin. But when we go to let go, you'll notice that this hammer lifts up. Let's try it again. All right. So if you guys can see, it lifts up a little bit. It does the job of the hammer bar. So when this hammer is down and it rests, it's actually resting above the firing pin up here on the frame. All right. And then the firing pin sits down into this little pocket right here. So it's a very safe little system. And the way it works is this hammer is actually riding on a cam down in here that's attached to the trigger. All right. And the whole point behind this is if something happened, you had this cocked back, right? And you dropped it and it boom, and it went forward. Well, if it went forward because it's riding on that position of that cam, and you're not releasing the trigger yourself, because the trigger has to be released in order for this to do what it needs to do, this will just fall straight forward back to that start position. All right, that's what it'll do. So it's pretty interesting how they did that. And we also have that Smith & Wesson style cylinder stop right here, our cylinder stop screw. That is there, okay. As a matter of fact, that's not a screw on this one, it's actually just part of the frame. Alright. On some of the Smiths, that's actually a screw that's been cut in half and then threaded in. So overall, it's fairly similar to a Smith & Wesson. Alright. I want to add to this video in the description a very interesting article that I had found. Okay. It was from American Handgunner. It was the November of 82 or 83 issue. And so I'm going to try to figure out how to add the PDF into the description so you guys can go see it. Okay. It's a fairly long article. Excuse me, I got to take a drink of my water here. And it was a very good review on it. They got a really good review. The writer really liked it. Compared it even to a smoothed up, professionally tuned Smith & Wesson 29 after he himself had gone and done a little tuning on this. And he said that they were just so close. He didn't see any kind of issues with it. And he suggests them at the end of the article. You will notice that a lot of people say these were a more quote-unquote affordable option to the Smith & Wesson Model 29, and they were, but don't let that mislead you. All right, we hear that today on YouTube, and we think, a lot of us do, we think, okay, it was more affordable, so that means what you're telling me is you have a cheap gun. Alright, you have a quote-unquote budget gun. And no, that's not it. As a matter of fact, here, I'll show you some pictures. Here is an ad from 1981 on this revolver with a 6-inch barrel. And if you notice, in 1981, this particular revolver sold for $415. Alright, it's kind of hard to see the price there, but it's $415 in 1981, and in 1981 that was a buttload of cash. Today it's still a buttload of cash with this economy that we're in under Joe Biden and Miss Cax-a-lot. All right, so in comparison, here is a picture of an ad for a Smith & Wesson in-frame. Now, I couldn't find one in the 44 Magnum, but I found one in 41 Magnum, so you could get some kind of an idea of the difference between the two of them price-wise. Same frame, it's just a different chambering, okay? And it's $460 or $465, okay? So we're talking a difference of $40, $45 between the two of them, all right? That's the difference. There's a lot of folks that have had these online, and they've gone like ape crazy over these things, and they've started like measuring stuff and comparing it, because this thing is consistently being compared to the Smith & Wesson Model 29, because again, that's basically what it is. And what people have found is that this weighs a little bit more. All right, it does. It weighs a little bit more. It's right around 42, 43 ounces. Okay, but there's a reason it weighs more. The barrel is thicker. The frame is thicker down here around the crane area, and underneath it here, just everything around here is thicker. Okay, it's built a little heavier duty. There's extra latches and things that are in play here for lockup. Of course, you have that cam system here also. So it's a little bit heavier duty than the Smith & Wesson 29. So why isn't it more popular? They made it for 16 years. They built a really good gun here. Why isn't this thing more popular? Well, again, like I said in the beginning of this video, Gabilondo Asia Vittoria went out of business in the year 2000. So in '94 they stopped making this, and 6 years later they went out of business. Why did they go out of business? Well, bad financial choices, like trying to bail out East Asia's gun companies and, trying to help, Eastern Asia as a whole, Spain, the country. If you guys remember here a while back, Spain actually, they went upside down here under Obama. If you guys remember that, they went upside down. The entire country did. Okay, so they had done that, and because of that, the East Asians, I don't know exactly which country in East Asia it was, but it was Eastern Asia. Probably China. Who knows? All right. They didn't pay them back. They didn't pay Spain back. And so that caused this company to claim bankruptcy. After this company claimed bankruptcy, there were 52 employees of the company that came forward and said, look, we would like to buy the Llama name, and we would like to continue to produce these pistols. We would like, because they also are really known for 1911 style pistols. Now I say 1911 style because most of their pistols, like the Max 1, the Mini Max, and a couple of others that they have, they look like a 1911, but they have less than 50% part interchangeability from a 1911. Now that, jumping ahead a little bit, that does change in the future. Okay, so 2000, they ask about the name. They get permission to rebuild the company. In 2003, they all get together, because in the previous year, 2002, they're struggling. 2003, they're ready to roll, and again, boom, that conglomerate of Llama hadn't even really started making guns yet. Bankruptcy again. Okay. The East Asians strike again. Okay. So, they have to recover from all of that, and it takes them from 2003 to 2018 to be able to recover from that whole situation. In 2018, Llama came back, and they are now making their 1911 pistols once again, and you can get them at Sportsman's Warehouse. Okay. Now, in that meantime, between 2003 and 2018, two of those investors decided, okay, we're going to try to move the company to a different market and just see what happens. Okay, so two investors take the name, they set up a small little facility in Argentina, and they start off by making another revolver called the Cherokee 2 and the Cherokee 3. All right, now don't get this confused, or excuse me, not the Cherokee 2 and Cherokee 3, Comanche 2 and Comanche 3. All right. Now don't get this confused, because there is a Comanche 2 and a Comanche 3 that Llama made in Spain. They just took that same name and went on over to Argentina and started producing a newer version of this revolver. And I actually reviewed one of these revolvers for you guys about 5 years ago. All right. Well, these revolvers looked really interesting. They looked different. They had kind of a jagged look, is the way I could best describe it. But in reality, they weren't very good revolvers. They just weren't. They were all chambered in 38 Special 357. They came in stainless, they came in blue, they came in all these different colors. They would come in either a red or black cardboard box, and it would say Comanche real big on the front of it, or Comanche 2 or Comanche 2A, or whatever. And long story short, these revolvers were junk. They were junk. They didn't sell well, and they had lockup problems. Okay, so these particular revolvers, these Argentinian versions, they didn't make them very long. There was like 3 or 4 years that they made them, and then once again, they folded under, and back to Spain they went. And now Now they're back in Spain, back in the old factory under a new name. They're still calling it Llama, but again, Gabilondo as Cia Vittoria is no longer in the picture. So they're back. Okay, they're back. I wish, since they're back, I wish they would start making, parts for these again. As far as I've seen, they have not brought this back yet. I would like to see them bring this back and bring parts back, which would be awesome for everybody that owns one. Okay. So that's kind of some history on them. They were a really old company, started in 1904. Okay, so they went through World War I, World War II, Vietnam, Korea, and their competition in Spain was Astra and Star. All right, so those are two names we should know very well. Astra also was involved in World War I and a lot in World War II. As a matter of fact, a lot of Nazi soldiers used the Astra Model 300 and the Astra Model 400. Okay. Very weird, interesting looking gun. It's basically looks like I'm sure you've seen it. Looks like a tube with a handle on it. All right, and they were chambered in 380 ACP or 32 ACP. All right. There were some of them the 400s. There were a few of the 400s that were made in 9mm Luger. Okay. So that's a little bit about Astra. All right, and kind of some of the Spanish gun makers. So let's talk about this one specifically. Let's talk about the common problems that come with this model of revolver. They really don't have a lot of problems. They really don't. They're a very stout built revolver. The only one major problem, besides the fact that parts are hard to find, and that's why if you find a problem with one, that it probably exists. Okay. The one problem that kind of reoccurs in these is very simply fixed. It's very affordable to fix, and all it takes is a little bit of that. All right, a little bit of the thread locker. All right. Just like on the Smith & Wessons. The Smith & Wessons are notorious for, blowing out the crane screw while you're shooting. On these, it's a little bit different. Okay. The problem you have with this is with your center pin. All right, and your extractor and ejector and all of that. What ends up happening with these is this takes years. People won't pay attention to the ejector rod, and it'll start to work loose. All right, it's just threaded into. You've got your your ejector starter, and then you've got this tube right here. Inside this tube lives your center pin and a spring, and then you have another big spring going through the middle of the cylinder, and then to kind of hold all that together, this ejector rod just threads right into the ejector itself. Okay, and so what happens as time goes on, things heat up, they cool down, vibrations, things like that age. This rod will actually over time start loosening up. It sits here, you get grime and stuff up in the crane right there, and it kind of catch on the crane and on the ejector rod, and then the cylinder starts rotating. Again, this has clockwise rotation, just like a Smith would have. Okay, it's not counterclockwise. All right, that's moving down on the right side. So what happens is it'll back all the way out while you're shooting sometimes, and one of two things happens when that happens. Either A, this thing jam up tighter than tight, and when that happens, and you can't get the cylinder open, which is what happened on this one, which is apparent by the marks here, where somebody thought it was a good idea to try to pry on this, or really what it looks like to me, judging also by the marks up here on the barrel, is that someone sat here with a punch or a hammer and was trying to try to beat this thing out. And that's just not how you do it. You can see like how the corners right here are all flattened out and everything. Yeah, that's Bubba. Bubba got a gun. All right. So this is missing the center pin and the spring. Again, like I said, I have it coming. All right, I was able to find those at Numeric. So when that happens, like I said, it'll either lock up and then you get Bubba and his toolkit, or the correct way to go about doing this and taking care of that is you take your grips off, take your side plate off, you go in here on your latch, and there's a little button, pin, pull that out, and then you can get through the hole that's in the frame right there, and you can press that pin all the way back in, and then you can start to ease this open. Now once you get that pin out of that hole, you just kind of hold it like so. Take your hand, put it over here like this, and cover it with your hand like that. All right. Now I bought this gun this way. All right. This did not happen while under my ownership. I bought this broken. Okay. So once you got that, you can kind of turn the gun up like so, and then ease it downward like this. Okay. Because that spring's under pressure, that pin's under pressure, the extractor's under pressure, and just ease it real slow out. Okay. And then let it all kind of fall into your hand. And then when it does that, you're going to inspect the threads. The threads on my ejector rod were boogered too. I had to clean them up. Inspect your threads, clean them up as needed, and then from there you can put it all back together, put some Loctite on it, and it'll never happen again. All right. So the other thing that would happen with these is the same thing, but it would shoot just fine. You wouldn't know anything was going, and then you would just go bump to open it, and when the second you would go to open it, boom, and there goes your center pin, there goes your spring, there goes your ejector, there goes everything inside of the cylinder. All right. So what you got to do again is Loctite, a little bit of blue Loctite. You could use red if you wanted to, if you didn't think you'd ever have to get in there again, but I really don't suggest it. I would say stick with like number 242 blue Loctite. You can buy a little tube this size right here. Now this is red. I would say not to use this. You can buy a little tube like this for $2 over at Harbor Freight, and it works pretty good. Just go ahead and make sure that you degrease the threads on both pieces when you go to do this. Don't get any on any springs or any pins. Just a little boop, little drop is all it takes on the threads of the ejector rod, and then thread it in. And when you get it threaded in till it stops, and then you can just take a little pair of non-marring pliers, put some tape around this with some needle nose, and just give it a little kiss of torque, just an inch pound or two, just enough to kind of, just about that much with your hand, just a little, not much at all. All right, very fine threads on here. I think they are either a 4 or 5. I haven't measured them yet, but looking at them, I've gotten pretty good at looking at threads and being able to tell what they are. They're between 4 or 5 millimeter and probably a 0.75 thread pitch. They are metric. Okay, so that is the thing to go about fixing this, and that's the thing, and that's on all of these older, Super Comanches. The original Comanche. See, the original Comanche, the Super Comanche, those were fantastic pistols. It's the Comanche 2 and the Comanche 3 that kind of went, they dropped the ball because, again, previously as described, all of the troubles that this company was having at that point in time, because really at that point in time also, again, it wasn't the same company. It wasn't Gambolando, whatever, Sia, Vittoria. They were gone. All right, so if your Llama says this Gabolando Sia Vittoria, you have a good one. That's the way to know. You have the good one. If it doesn't say that on it, you don't want it. All right, it's the early ones really good because that's the original company. All right, after that, you don't want it. You just don't want it. I don't know about the new ones, 2018 and newer. I don't know about the new ones now. I know nothing about those 1911s now. Everybody that I've talked to has said they've been pretty good. My older Black Max, that again was a Gabolando, a Sia Vittoria, was a fantastic gun. But I don't know in between there, because there are some little in between models that showed up from little spurts from this company. So either way, they're a fantastic little revolver. You know, they've got a wonderful trigger pull. It's very smooth. Okay, great lockup. The lockup and the timing is very fast on this revolver. When you go to pull this hammer back, see, I'm not even latched. Okay, when I go to pull that back, boom, it's in time right there, and I've still got about a 1/4 inch of travel sitting here before the hammer comes all the way back. So it has very fast timing. All right, that cylinder gets to where it needs to go, and it does it in a hurry. All right, so that's a good thing. All right, that is a good thing. I like that. So all in all, guys, that is it. I hope you guys enjoyed this little video on and I may have called it a Cherokee a time or two, because it's just, you know, I hear Cherokee more than I do Comanche. But this is the Super Comanche 44 Big Momma Llama from Llama and Gabilondo Asia Vittoria. See, I remember it now. I got it down. Just got to say it a few times. Don't turn your nose at them. They're very affordable these days, again, because of the parts. If you find one that's in good shape, snag it. You can pick one of these up used for about $300 to $400. Okay, in 2024. All right, and they're every damn bit as good as the Smith & Wesson. Every damn bit. Okay. When you get one too, I suggest you check that rod has that Loctite on it. All right. So with that, thank you for watching. If you guys like this video, again, you know, hit the thumbs up. It means a lot to the channel, as does subscribing. When I go to repair this one and get it all done, the parts come in, we'll return to it, we'll take it out to the range. I have some 44 Special that I'm going to be shooting out of it as a test cartridge. We'll go ahead and film all of that for you live, and you guys can watch what happens and watch what unfolds. And then if that goes well, if I can get 10, maybe, you know, well, if I can get 2 or 3 cylinders worth, all right, so, you know, 18 rounds of that down the barrel with no problems. I have some spicy 250 grain 44 mag in there from PMC that I actually used to carry in a Taurus 44C. God, I missed that revolver. It's some spice. It's a spicy meatball. Okay, it's pretty spicy. I know a lot of folks out there, they would hear PMC and go, spicy with PMC? That doesn't make sense. This stuff's from the 80s. Okay, it's a truncated cone soft point is what it is. All right, and out of my Taurus 44C with a 4-inch barrel, it was delivering 998 foot-pounds of muzzle energy. Out of this, I'm willing to bet we're gonna cross 1100. We're going to cross 1,100 foot-pounds of energy out of this 8.5-inch barrel, which, by the way, the 8-inch and the 8.5-inch especially are kind of hard to find. Most of the ones that you're going to find are going to be a 6-inch or 4-inch. Okay, so this one right here especially, it's kind of hard to find. All right, the big old Wyatt Earp Special right here, or the Dirty Harry. All right, so again, if you like what you see, thumbs up. I'll shut up now. And hey, God bless you. God bless America. And please take a kid fishing, take a kid shooting. Children are our future. And I will see you on the flip. Bye now.